data.
Right.
And then
120 state capital cases.
And you couldn't get the data on how many of them?
75% of those. We only got data on 30 of 120.
Okay, so what total percentage of all of those cases are not reported in that slide? That we don't know what the guy did? You follow what I'm saying?
Oh, yes, sir. The total was 120 plus 44. That's 164.
Okay.
I could get data out of that on 73.
Okay.
So I have 73 out of 164. A little bit less than 50%.
A little bit less. So there's a whole other 50% of those cases. We have no idea whether or not your conclusions comport with how they behaved in prison, right? We just don't know because you couldn't get the data, right?
Well, that's correct, and that's why I described that in my testimony, that we had 120 and I could only get it on 30.
I got you. That's fine. And then you also, for the benefit of this jury, you broke out of the group of 111 inmates that had transitioned from death row to life in prison in Texas. You remember that?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, and for the jury, what you did in that one is you broke out 6 cop killers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you used those numbers to kind of talk to the jury about the statistical probability that a convicted cop killer using those numbers might engage in criminal activity, right?
That's correct.
All right, now, I don't know anything about statistics, but are your results more reliable the bigger group you have to look at?
Absolutely.
Okay, so like for instance, when you got 6, let's say it was only 1 cop killer, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that 1 cop killer goes to prison and he kills a guard. Would you testify in a court of law that it's a 100% probability that a defendant is going to kill a guard if he's a cop killer?
Oh, no, sir.
No. Okay. And in fact, there are, last year alone, 126 cops killed in the country, and if you multiply that over a number of years, there's a lot of cop killers all throughout the United States, right?
Yes, sir.
And is there a study, are you working on a study, or are we aware of a study that looks at all of the cop killers in the 50 states in the Union? Okay. Now, what we talked about just a little bit, or what you talked about is, I think a kind of, well, that what happened is not important, that the facts and circumstances of the case are not as important as his educational background, his age, things of that nature, correct?
I described that there is only a single type of capital offense, or context, that's been associated with a greater or lesser likelihood of violence in prison, and that characteristic is that the capital offense was committed in the course of a robbery or a burglary. Otherwise, the killing of a child, sexual offense, law enforcement officer, murder for hire, those other characteristics have not been found to be predictive of violence in prison.
So, when you talked and when you interviewed the defendant, did you ask him to express to you his feelings or attitudes about law enforcement?
I did not.
Okay. And in fact, it's your position or your opinion that his feelings or opinions about law enforcement generally, whether they be prison guards or correctional officers or whatever, generally is not helpful to you, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. May opposed.
Yes.
So again, sir, my question to you was that you indicated that an inmate, the defendant's feelings, opinions about prison guards, law enforcement is not something that generally is of concern for you in this process, correct?
Well, it's not that it's of concern, it's that it's not predictive of violence in prison.
Let me ask you this.
It seems like it would be, like for it to be, but it's simply not.
We're all clear on that. But let me ask you, if you got a guy, let's say he's 60 years old, he's got a PhD, He's had very few bad experiences with law enforcement. He's got a supportive family that's going to visit him when he's in prison. But he tells you over and over, and this is a purely hypothetical, but he tells you over and over, I hate cops, I hate guards, I hate being told what to do, I'm going to act out violently in prison, I'm going to act out violently in prison. That's not something that would be significant to you? I mean, you would put that aside in light of the numbers?
Well, if he announced an intention to imminently hurt a correctional officer, then I would incorporate that into my risk assessment, and I would seek to have that be a part of a written report or to follow him to prison, so that there could be steps that could be taken to control for that. But the features of that he is antagonistic toward law enforcement or antagonistic toward correctional staff is one of those features that's almost universal in a prison population, that these are individuals who have negative attitudes toward the police and largely negative attitudes toward correctional staff. And so that is so pervasive in that context that it's going to fail to predict the rare act of serious violence. That attitude is distinct from, I'm announcing an intention to act.
Okay. Now, in your review in this case, one of the things you reviewed were some handwritten notes from the defendant, some Bible verses and things of that nature. You remember that?
I did.
Okay. And in those, there are the following two quotes. And I'm just wondering if these factored into your equation at all, these notes or thoughts of the defendant. It's on the page entitled Quotes, and it's, the first one is, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees.
Yes, sir.
And the second one is, a badge in America is a license to kill.
Yes, sir.
And these are writings from the defendant. These ultimately do not affect your overall opinion with regard to the analysis you've conducted, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So just kind of to summarize, I just want to make sure that I'm clear on this. When you talk to them about context, the big context here is that where he will be, whether he's sentenced to death or life, is in an institution in which they will control his movements very, very strictly, correct?
That's correct.
And so it is in that context, and not the context of him out on the road, driving around in a car with a suspended license and a firearm as a convicted felon, that you render an opinion that he's not likely to kill or do serious, or extremely or severely or greatly unlikely that he's going to kill or do serious bodily injury in prison. That's your testimony.
This is specific to a prison context.
Okay. Thank you.
Defense have any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Doctor, very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You get all your things and watch your step there.
Yes, sir.
Defense, call our next witness, please.
Defense called Noretta Jenkins.
Sorry?
Noretta Jenkins, Your Honor.
And thank you for bearing with us. Come right up here and she'll place you under oath.
Do you swear upon the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
Watch your step, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you go ahead and state your name?
My name is Noretta Tisdale Jenkins, Jenkins.
Where do you live?
I live in West Palm Beach, Florida.
And how long have you lived there?
30 years.
Where did you live before that?
New Jersey.
What is your education?
I went to school for, I would say, court stenography. I went to a business college. I didn't complete it, but I did business administration and court stenography. Recently as a prenatal outreach educator for Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, but for 30 years I was a legal assistant in a law office.
Okay. And did you work more than one job most of your life?
Yes, for at least 40 years. 40 years.
And how do you know Eriese Tisdale?
He's my nephew.
Okay. And who are your sisters?
Vanessa Tyree and Charmaine Tisdale.
And are you a close family?
Very close.
Who moved to Florida first?
Vanessa.
When did you move?
About 5 years after she moved.
Is it the same area?
Yes, in walking distance.
Is that West Palm Beach?
Yes.
And where did Charmaine live then?
In New Jersey.
Can you tell us a little bit about Charmaine? Were all three sisters, y'all grow up the same?
We grew up in the same household. Mother and father were in the household. We were raised by loving parents, and we had a great relationship. We were very, very close.
Okay. Were you in Charmaine's life when she got pregnant with Eric?
Yes, I was.
What was the pregnancy like?
I'm not sure how the pregnancy was because she got pregnant, and while she was pregnant, she was in New Jersey. But we found out she was pregnant, and she told us about the pregnancy, and then she moved to Florida after her son was born.
Okay. How long after you left was Charmaine still in New Jersey?
I'm not sure. I can only tell you that I've been here 30 years, and Charmaine has probably been here 27.
Okay. So a few years after you left.
Charmaine came, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And was there anything about her pregnancy that you had knowledge of going on with Charmaine?
I knew prior to Charmaine getting pregnant that she was using cocaine. And that was the result of us having our house in New Jersey torched. Somebody poured gasoline around at night with a bomb. And she was the first to be aware of it, and she alerted everybody in the household, and she had second and third degree burns. So after that happened, I started changing her behavior.
Okay. And then she started using cocaine?
Yes.
Okay. And was she using cocaine up until when you left?
Yes.
Did you know if it was still being used during pregnancy?
She told me it was.
And were you around when Eriese was an infant?
I would say a toddler. When she came to Florida, he was a toddler. She came in for support because our whole family up north was deceased.
Okay. And did you talk to Charmaine the entire time that she was pregnant, and then after she had the baby when she was in Jersey?
Yes, I tried to be support, but it was long-distance support.
Okay. And did she share anything about Eriese when he was an infant?
She shared that he was basically, he went basically full term. You know, she was, I don't think she gained as much weight as the average person gains during their pregnancy. But he was a healthy baby, and her pregnancy was a C-section.
Okay. And did he have any type of medical issues after?
He had tremors when he was born, and he cried a lot.
Okay, but did he grow out of that at some point?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
And so you said that there, when he was a toddler, Charmaine had moved to Florida.
Yes.
And who did they live with?
Vanessa.
And you said you lived around the corner?
Yes, I did. I tried to be support, but I always worked 2 jobs, so I wasn't available to be the kind of support that she would have needed. You know, Vanessa and her were much closer as far as care for Eriese.
And do you have children?
I have 2 children. Well, I had 2 children. I have a daughter, but my only son was murdered in 2004.
Okay. And what was
the 2004 incident?
My son was shot dead at a female friend's house where he was at. The female friend's ex-husband had told her if he ever saw her with a man, he would kill him and her.
And that was told to you after the fact?
Yes, it was.
And how old was your child?
Rajan was 37 years old.
Okay, now was Rajan a convicted felon?
When he died, he was. He had been convicted of having marijuana, possession of marijuana.
Okay. Now, I mean, I know it's hard to talk about your own son, but was Rajan, how old was he compared to Eris?
Rajan was 10 years older than Eris.
Okay. And was he somebody that Eris looked up to?
Yes, he did, because Rajan, my son, had the kind of personality like Eris. Rajan did 2.5 years of college. He was all about education. He had got his license for real estate, and he always encouraged children make wise decisions, stay in school, and make the choices so you can go forward.
Okay, and so
in spite of Rajan having that same desire, unfortunately, after he got possession of marijuana, he couldn't get the jobs that he'd had previously. He always worked all of his life. He always had a side hustle of selling clothing, but the main key jobs that he could have gotten had he not been convicted of marijuana possession, he couldn't get. So he tried to encourage Eris not to be in that same mode. In spite of him smoking marijuana, my son, he tried to disencourage others, but it didn't work.
Okay. And he was somebody that was influenced? He was.
They did a lot of positive things together. They went fishing, and they read a lot together, a lot of positive books. And
okay, but Rajan had his own issues with that?
Yes, he did. Okay. Yes, he did.
And Eris knew about those?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And Rajan's personality was giving, but at the same time, he was struggling to get his life in order, too?
Yes, and he had some struggles with the police also, and of course Eris knew about that. So he had some issues going on also that Eris was aware of. And so when you have negative forces as well as positive ones, they still intertwine.
Okay. And you, as the mother of Rajan, do you know any of those negative things that happened to Rajan?
Well, one particular incident happened in West Palm Beach, in the 07 zip code off of Tamarind Avenue. He was sitting in his vehicle. It was nighttime. It was a Jeep, and the top was off the Jeep. And so Rajan was sitting there after work, him and his friends just talking. And police drives up to him and ask him for his driver's license and registration. And so he says, "Officer, I'm not driving. I'm just sitting here. Why you?" He used the word, he was so pissed off. "Why are you effing with me? I'm just a black man trying to work every day." And why did he say that? That was like, wow. So what happened, he asked the officer to please shine his flashlight into the glove compartment because it's nighttime and he can't see because there's no hood on the vehicle. So the officer says, "Driver's license and registration." He says, "But I can't find it." So anyway, more words went on. He told Rajan to get out of the vehicle, that he was going to be arrested. Arrested for what? So again, he continued to mouth at the police officer. He got out of the vehicle, and they said to him, we're going to handcuff you and take you in. So he's standing there, but didn't want to be handcuffed. So in the meantime, the owner of the household was a teacher. She says, "Rajan, just cooperate with the police. Put your hands behind your back, let them arrest you, and we'll work it out." And he was very belligerent, but he wound up getting arrested and taken to the police station. I was called and told my son had been arrested. He was in West Palm Beach, and that he had a weapon. So I'm like, wow. So I went down to trying to find him. It took about 2.5 hours for the police to actually get him booked in. And the weapon that he had was a carpet knife, because he was installing carpets. That was the weapon. The case went to trial, and a blessing that one of the cops said that Rajan was not the charge was I can't even talk. The charge was resisting arrest with violence, disorderly conduct, etc. But when the case went to trial, it was found out and established that one of the cops established that Rajan was not doing anything out of the way. He would not allow the police to handcuff them, but the charges were, the case was actually dropped and the charges reduced. So from that point on, my son was like, we talked about it, the attorney who represented Rajan, you got to change your attitude, man. He says, I know. So from that point on, he became an advocate for appropriately responding to the police and stop acting like, so what if you didn't do anything wrong? Just cooperate and follow instructions. So he always told Eris and my grandson, it can always be worked out, but you can't work it out if you're dead. You can't work it out if you're dead. And then the other thing that happened while he was waiting to be taken in, but my son was 6'6", 260 pounds, a very big young man. He told me that the officers were taunting him, saying, why didn't you just shoot the nigga? Why did you tussle with him? Those were his so that's why he even had more of an attitude. But he knew that his antagonistic tone and behavior inflamed the police. So he knew that in spite of what happened, the negativity that he did brought about a lot of the responses. So again, he became an advocate for good behavior when you're being arrested or being questioned.
But at the time Rajan died, how old was he?
Eris was 17 when Rajan died.
So he was sharing all these stories?
He was sharing all these stories with Eris, yes, he was.
Who Eris looked up to?
Yes, he did.
Okay, and did Eris smoke marijuana with?
Yes, he did. He smoked marijuana with my son.
Did Rajan have children?
Rajan had two sons, Ahmad Carson and his son through a marriage, Rashid Irving.
Who's older?
Ahmad is older.
Does Ahmad live with you?
No, Ahmad lives in a house that I own. Ahmad lives, no. Ahmad used to live with me for a long time. Ahmad lives by himself now, and my daughter lives in a house that I own.
Is that the house next to Vanessa?
Yes, it is.
Okay. But Ahmad's your grandson?
Yes, he is. And we all still live in walking distance from each other.
Okay. Now, at the same time that Rajan got shot and killed, was there other tragedy happening in your family?
Well, prior to Rajan dying, my brother-in-law, Vanessa's husband, who had always worked all of his life healthy, went into the hospital for a minor surgery on his heart. He died on an operating table. So that was 10 days before my son died. So you have him dying, and his household was right next door to my household. So you had two main male factors, male role models taken away within a matter of 10 days of each other.
Okay, and that was tough.
It was tough for Eris because those are the two men that he hung out with, fished with, and basically taught him how to work on cars, how to do a yard, how to fish. So those were men in his life, and the only two positive role models.
Now, when you say positive, what was the uncle's name?
Say it again, please.
What was the uncle's name?
His name is William Tyree.
Okay. So Uncle Bill, do you call Uncle Bill?
Oh, we call them Bill, Uncle Bill.
Is that
Yeah,
what yours called him?
Bill. I call Uncle Bill. Yeah.
Okay. So Uncle Bill, was he without clothes?
Unfortunately, Uncle Bill was an alcoholic. He worked every day, but he drank every day, and he smoked marijuana. But went to work every day, always worked in the household, always was trying to find things to do, to add to the house and just do things in the household. But he smoked pot, and he drank.
And did he share any of that with Eris?
I'm 99% sure. I can't say for 100% if he smoked around Eris, but most likely he didn't smoke with Eris. But Eris would have seen him smoking marijuana, yes.
And when you say he was an alcoholic?
He drank every day. He came home from work and had a beer. So to me, that's when you drink 2 or 3 beers every day after work, that's an issue.
Did he ever become abusive with anybody?
Not verbally, yes. Verbally, yes.
But even so, he was one of these, we would say, mentor father figures in Eris as well.
Yes, he was. Uh-huh.
And that was in 2004 when Eris was 17?
Yes.
Okay. Now I want to bring you back a little to when Eris was a young boy. Who was it? Were you in his life back then?
Yes, I was.
And did Charmaine and Eris ever live with you?
No.
But she lived with Vanessa.
Which was side by side to my house. The houses are side by side.
Okay. And were you involved with Charmaine's life? You said you worked a lot, but...
Yes, we talked a lot. We went to the movies, went to the beach. We did a lot of things together, sisters too, yes.
Were you active in Eris's schooling?
Not active in the schooling, but I got involved in things that he was doing, but not active in the schooling, no.
Did you know where he went?
To school, yes.
Did you know about Westwood Elementary?
I know he went to that school, yes, in West Palm Beach,
And did you remember when, how long Charmaine was in West Palm before she moved to Jupiter?
She was in West Palm Beach maybe 5 years prior to moving to Jupiter. She moved to Jupiter when she bought a home.
Okay, did she stay in the same residence in West Palm Beach with her?
No, she lived on Executive Center Drive at one time. She lived on Boss Lane at one time. And I can't think of where else, but definitely those two residences stand out.
And also with Vanessa? So
Yes.
3 residences in that
Right.
year? And what was the reason for moving to Jupiter?
She was purchasing a home in a development that was some government money available to first-time buyers, and she worked 2 jobs. She had enough money for a down payment, and she was in that income level where she qualified for a home.
Is that like a low income?
Low income, yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, did you ever go to that residence?
I was married there, yes.
Okay, that's years later? Or?
I was married there in 2003.
Okay. So, how long had she been in the house?
Maybe 4 or 5 years when I got married. Mm-hmm.
And what was it about the neighborhood being low income that you recall?
Well, I can say that in spite of the neighborhood having a lot of the beautiful new homes were bought brand new, beautiful homes, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, affordable, garage, the whole 9. You had a lot of negative influence because you had the people that were coming from, let's say, really crime-infested areas into the area and bringing the same crime and the same element to this area that was trying to be built up. So you had the registered nurse next door, and then you'd have the person driving a cab next door. Even though he has an education and he's working for his family, you still have the children that are bringing a lot of negative with them. So you had professional, non-professional, and the element that was already there. So it was a cross-connection of people that were professional, non-professional, and a negative element.
When you say negative element?
I'm talking about drugs. Drugs and crime.
So it was a mix.
A mix. Mm-hmm.
And Charmaine, was she always a single mom?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what was Eris like as a schoolboy?
Basically, Eris was to me always a lot to himself because he had a personality. He always played sure it may have been Lighthouse that he was bused to.
Okay, and he moved back to Limestone Creek from Lighthouse. Do you know why?
I'm not sure. Not sure.
Now, when Eris went into teenage years, what kind of kid was he then?
He was always always cracking jokes, always funny. Had a positive attitude, but you got to understand that when you don't have a gang and you don't have brothers and sisters, we're talking about a young man who's been home alone quite a bit. So he learned how to, quote, being alone, I would say. So he still had some withdrawal. To me, he wasn't, in spite of being funny and lively and appeared to be happy, I would still see those silent times of solitude.
Now, I don't mean to pinpoint or draw attention, but I thought I heard you say the word he wasn't part of the gang.
Well, he wasn't. I used that because I never saw him with a lot of friends. I didn't see that.
You didn't mean gang and...
Oh, no. I'm just saying that we would see him with a friend or two, but he didn't really have a crew to hang out. A crew, I would say a crew.
When he was younger.
When he was younger, right.
Do Do you remember what high school he started at?
Jupiter High.
Okay. And did he get transferred out of Jupiter?
Yes. There was some, I was told there was some behavioral issues and he was transferred to another school.
Okay. And what happened with those behavioral issues? Did he end up moving?
I believe he left from Jupiter High School and went to another high, I don't remember the name of the high school, but if you had call it out, I would remember the high school. But he left that high school and went to another high school in Jupiter.
And is that the one he graduated in charter?
No, he wound up going to a charter school in West Palm Beach, and that was Survivor's charter. So he had 3 high schools, I'm pretty sure of, in his, from 14 to 18.
Okay, in that last year of high school?
Yes.
When all the tragedy happened in your family?
In my family, it was age 17.
Okay, and did you notice anything about Eric and the way he was at 17 when all that happened?
I saw that he was beginning to smoke more marijuana, in spite of him still having the skills and still being smart and working. He was working at Miami Sub, right around the corner from us, but we just see a change in him, a real change.
Okay, and did it affect the rest of the family as well?
Yeah, we were concerned about him. Yes, we were concerned.
So did the tragedies of the 2 deaths in a short amount of time affect the sisters and...
It affected all of us. We were all grieving. We were grieving the loss of 2 men.
Okay, so how did it affect Eric?
Well, he probably was, in spite of us we were all trying to survive. I was involved in counseling. My daughter's involved in counseling. So in spite of us, we weren't able to give him the attention that he needed and probably was striving for, because we were all dealing with our own issues. And Charmaine was working 2 jobs. So I'm sure he didn't get what he needed during that time frame.
Okay. And you say he often kept to himself.
Yes,
Did you notice that more as that time went on after that incident?
I would just say that when I would see Erice was in a corner. He would be, playing with his Zega, playing with, had music. He loved music, loved rap music, and I noticed that the music got louder and the themes got stronger, and I'm like, boy, turn that down, so it was like the music got much more, I would say much more graphic and raw that he was listening to.
Okay. And did he start going to school? Or attending school?
Well, in spite of that, he did go to Lincoln Tech, and in spite of it, we encouraged him to go on and proceed with education, and he tried. He tried very hard to get a foothold. He worked, and he made a great attempt at trying to be successful.
Okay, and did you see any negative signs coming from experiences he was having?
Well, he was when I saw him, his eyes was always red. He was always smoking. I say always smoking. I always saw the giddish. You can tell when somebody is high. So we got concerned, and we went and had him Marchman acted.
Do you remember roughly when that was?
May have been 2000. It was after my son, probably 2005, 2006, that we went to have him Marchman acted.
Okay. And did it help?
No.
Okay. Now, how about Ahmad? Did he live with you for a time?
Ahmad lived with me for a time. Yes, he did.
Okay, but he grew up in New Jersey.
Yes, he was raised in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Okay. He had a different environment.
He had a different environment, and Ahmad was blessed. I say he was blessed because, in spite of him growing up in a single-family household, his goals, he went to college for a minute. He didn't carry through, but I've worked in Florida and I've made a lot of great relationships, and Ahmad was able to meet somebody that he interviewed with, that I hooked him up with, a friend of a friend. He got a job, and he did very, very well, and he's still in his job after many years. But it's not, unfortunately, in this world, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So if you can get your foot in the door and show you can do the job, you can proceed. But if you don't get... Yes, he played football, yeah, and a little basketball, yes.
And now, you talked a little bit with Ahmad, there was the issue with his appearance and the dreads.
Oh, God, Erice. We both sat them down and we explained to them that
talked a little bit with Ahmad. There was the issue with his appearance and the dreads.
Oh, God, please.
Talk to him about that.
I talked to Ahmad about that every single day. When he started growing his hair, as well as Eriese, we both sat them down and we explained to them that me and my sisters, but me being the oldest, I was the most forceful, and they listened to me a lot because I'm the hip aunt. In spite of me being the oldest aunt, I'm the one that everybody likes to dance with, the one who has supposedly a personality that they can, relax and relate to. But I begged them, do not get dreads, because this is not your culture. It's the style, but it's not who you are. You want to look like, you want to have the appearance that's going to draw people to you, not away from you. When you can become employable, when you have that job skill, the doctor, the lawyer, or the Indian chief, when you can employ your own self, then if you want to wear dreads, okay. When you have the job and the career that you want, then I say go for it. But until that time comes, look like everybody else and be receivable. And to me, every time you see someone on the news, you always pick them out, the person with the hair. So why be someone to draw attention to yourself? It's not your culture. You're not Jamaican. You're not a roster. So why have that appearance?
So it was an issue in the
It was definitely an issue in the family.
still.
And it's still an issue. It's still an issue.
But have you experienced the negative connotation people get?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And did the boys come home and share those incidences with you to tell you?
Yeah.
I got.
They're constantly getting stopped, and Ahmad also, he was constantly getting stopped and pulled over, because if somebody in the neighborhood was wearing dreads who may have committed something, or somebody described them, and here you are, another person wearing dreads, you're going to get questioned about what may have happened or what may not have happened. So I constantly tell young men in general to make decisions that are going to draw people to you, not away from you.
Okay. And because you are the aunt of both of these boys.
Yes. Well, the grandma and the auntie.
Okay, the grandma and the auntie, obviously you have an influence on them. What is the difference between the two boys that we're here? Because we're here. If you're comparing your grandma, one made it and one didn't.
Mm-hmm, right.
What do you think?
Wow. I really and truly wish I could, answer that and really understand it, but I really don't. I just know that Eriese he had the best start. The worst start as it relates to a baby being born addicted, and I feel he really was. So that was a jump off in life that prenatally and probably carried him into his toddler years. So that was a very bad start. But then he still thrived. He still did well in school. But he was a loner, and he had a lot of quiet time to himself, unsupervised. So maybe in that case, where Ahmad grew up with 2 other siblings, lots of aunts around him living in the same household that weren't working 2 and 3 jobs, that could also, be support to him.
Oh, wait, Judge, I'm sorry. I have to approach. I approach for
Yes, ma'am.
some photography. Was it on in evidence? show you what's Defense Exhibit 21. And do you recognize that?
Yes, that's my son Rajan Irving and Eriese Tisdale.
Okay, and you remember about how long ago that was?
Oh my God. I have no, it looks like probably Eriese was maybe one or 2 years old, I don't know, but he was definitely a toddler.
Okay, and what about Daddy's boy? Who's that?
That's Ahmad, my grandson. He's wearing a shirt with his son's face on it.
Okay.
And it looks like they may have been at a movie theater because I see these glasses that they wear when they're watching a certain type of movie.
All right. Is that, how old do you think your son was in that?
He was in his 20s.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Judge, at this time I'd like to move 21, Defense 21 in.
So, our state have any objection?
No objection.
It is Defense 21 in evidence.
All right. Can I publish it, Judge?
We
Oh,
can-
sorry.
And you can publish it.
Just like to publish it?
Sure. Folks will publish this photograph to you that was just submitted. You'll be able to look at it when you retire to deliberate. Take a few minutes, look at it, take your time, just pass it down to your right.
Thank you.
And you ready?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, sir.
You said something earlier about the defendant here looked up to your son, obviously. They were
Yes, he did,
about
yes.
20 years apart.
No, just 10.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Had something wrong there. And the lesson that your son learned.
I'm sorry, you're right. Eriese was 17 when Rajan died. Rajan was 37, yes, 20 years.
Okay.
You're right, yes, you're right, 20 years difference.
And that the defendant looked up to him,
Yes, he did.
and obviously it was a blow when he passed.
Yes, yes.
But prior to that, your son had passed on that message that you've been talking about being respectful when you're in those kind of situations, right?
Yes, he did.
And you mentioned this just a minute ago that the defendant here, despite having a bad starting off point, developed normally and was a pretty smart kid.
Yes.
And in fact, I think you said, maybe you said it today, I know you said in your deposition that he had every opportunity to be successful.
As it relates to opportunities as we see it, but again, I also stated that it's not what you know, it's who you know. If you don't meet the right people, make the right connections, if you can't get your foot in the door, you can't go forward. So you have to have opportunities also.
And once you get your foot in your door, you have to...
Right, you absolutely do. Mm-hmm.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Well, before I leave the stand, I have to really say to the Morales family that please know that our family wants to extend to you our deepest condolences, and we've been praying for your children and the entire support system for your children. So we really feel your grief, and please know that we sympathize with you. Thank you.
Celdonio, do you have any other redirect?
No.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am, very much. Watch your step for me, please. Would you all call your next witness, please? has been excused. Okay, we'll go off the record. If y'all want to go ahead and get it set up, just let me know when you're ready, please.